Hello everyone, welcome back to today's story. In this episode, we return to the peaceful little farm where Tuna is raising baby Henry and slowly rebuilding her life after so many storms. But today, something changes, not because of hardship, but because of courage. After a long conversation with his closest friend John, Alex finally admits the truth he's been carrying for so long. He wants a real future with Tuna. Encouraged and supported, he gathers every ounce of bravery he has and drives straight to the farm, determined to tell her how deeply he loves her. Stay until the end. One simple moment under the night sky will forever change their lives. And don't forget to subscribe to help us reach 10,000 subscribers. Your support truly means the world. The small cafe in town was unusually quiet that afternoon. The kind of place where conversations softened and time seemed to slow down. Soft acoustic music floated from a speaker near the counter, blending with the faint smell of roasted beans. Alex sat across from John, shoulders tense, fingers tightly woven together as if he were holding himself in place. "Thank you, John. Without you, I'd be done for." His voice cracked at the end. John chuckled, brushing it off with a wave of his hand. "Come on, friends don't keep score." He reached across the table and patted Alex's shoulder. But the moment he pulled back, he noticed Alex wasn't smiling. Instead, Alex was staring down at the coffee cup in front of him, visibly trembling. When he finally spoke again, it was barely above a whisper, something fragile slipping out from deep inside. "I love Tuna, and little Henry too." John stopped moving. Alex lifted his head, and there was no hesitation left in those eyes, just a raw, almost painful honesty. "She's divorced. She's been hurt. She's raising Henry alone. But I don't care about any of that." His voice steadied. "I want to make it up to her. I want to marry her. And I want to give her a wedding so big, so beautiful, that no one ever dares look down on her again." For a moment, the entire cafe fell away. No music, no murmuring customers, no clinking glasses, just two men locked in a moment of truth. John's expression slowly changed, not to shock, not to pity, but to admiration. He leaned back in his chair and let out a breath. "You're a real man, Alex." It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic, but those words landed like a seal of approval, melting the last bit of fear hiding inside Alex's chest. The sunlight through the window shifted, landing directly on Alex's shaking hand as he held the cup. It felt like the universe itself placing a warm hand on his shoulder, telling him it was time. Time to stop being afraid. Time to step forward for the woman he loved. Minutes later, Alex's car tore down the winding red dirt road toward the farm. The windows rattled. Dust rose behind him in a long trail, but he didn't slow down. His heartbeat was frantic, every inhale sharp with anticipation. Not fear this time, but something much purer, something like longing overflowing all at once. He parked abruptly, killed the engine, and stepped out into the warm afternoon air. His eyes searched immediately. Under the shade of the big old tree, Tuna was bent over a giant kimchi tub, her hair tied up high, a few strands sticking to her forehead from sweat. Her sleeves were rolled to her elbows, and her hands were buried deep inside the mixture of chili paste and vegetables. She was humming softly, something simple, something domestic and sweet. She had no idea that a man across the yard was watching her like she was the only thing worth living for. Alex didn't move for several seconds. He just stood there, taking in the way the sunlight wrapped around her, the way she bit her lip when she concentrated, the way she pushed back her bangs with her wrist because her hands were dirty. It all hit him at once. How lucky he was to love someone like her. Finally, he walked toward her, voice trembling despite his attempt to control it. Tuna. She looked up immediately. Her eyes widened before her whole face blossomed into a smile so warm it made Alex's breath catch. Alex, you're back? Her voice was airy, surprised, and bright with happiness. He nodded, unable to stop his own grin. Yeah, I missed you. They stood just a few steps apart, but somehow the space between them felt filled with something soft and glowing. She handed him a pair of gloves, and he kneeled beside her without needing an explanation. Alex scooped up a handful of the chili paste mixture, but completely misjudged its thickness, splattering it all over his shirt. Tuna burst into giggles. Oh my God, look at you. You're worse than Henry when he makes porridge. She leaned closer and tried to wipe the stain with the edge of her sleeve, and her fingers brushed his chest. Light, accidental, gentle. Both froze. Then both laughed. Nervous, shy, warm. Alex tried the mixture again, this time more carefully. He picked up a piece, tasted it, and his eyes widened dramatically. This is amazing. You've been hiding talent like this from me? She laughed again, cheeks turning pink. It's just kimchi. No, it's your kimchi, which means it's the best kimchi in the whole world. He kept praising, exaggeratedly even, until she playfully swatted his arm. Then Alex scooped up a bite on a spoon and held it toward her. Open up. Alex, come on. I want to know which part you like best. She finally leaned in and tasted it. He watched every reaction on her face, the way her eyes softened, the way her lips curved up, and he felt something in his chest crack open a little more. Tomorrow, Alex said softly, take this to the market. Sell it. You don't need to pick fruit in the heat all day. I swear, I'd eat your cooking forever. Tuna looked down, her lashes trembling. No one had ever said something like that to her before. I just want to help my mom and raise Henry well. Alex reached out and took her hand, chili paste and all. You deserve gentler days than this. I want you to have them. His voice carried something heavy, something like a promise stretching into a lifetime. When they finished sealing the jar, both stood up and brushed the dirt off their knees. They looked at each other and grinned like two kids who had just done something mischievous. Let's go get Henry. Alex didn't wait. He intertwined his fingers with hers and tugged her along playfully. The drive back was quiet, but in the best way. Windows down, wind rushing through, the scent of earth and chili paste mingling in the air. Alex glanced at her from the driver's seat, eyes soft, steady, and full. Work is stable again now, he said, almost like a confession. The only thing missing is having you and Henry with me, every day. Tuna turned toward him, her eyes shimmering faintly. She didn't need to speak. Her fingers tightened around his hand, resting between them. Outside, the crimson sunset wrapped the world in a warm glow. Inside the car, the three of them, Alex, Tuna, and little Henry, felt like a family quietly forming, not with papers or vows, but with love that was finally ready to take shape. The sun had dipped lower by the time Alex pulled up in front of the small wooden house. The sky was painted in warm streaks of orange and rose, the kind of colors that made even ordinary days feel special. Henry was already outside in his little chair, babbling excitedly at the chickens scratching in the dirt nearby. The moment he saw Alex, he squealed and waved his tiny arms. Alex rushed over, scooping Henry up with practiced ease. "Hey, champ, you miss me?" Henry responded with a delighted squeak, pressing his head against Alex's chest as if he'd been waiting all day for this. Tuna watched them for a second, just a second, before a soft, almost invisible smile touched her lips. Alex kissed the top of Henry's head, then looked at Tuna, voice lower and more serious. This is what I want every day." She opened her mouth to say something, but the words got lost. Instead, she looked down at the hem of her shirt and quietly nodded. Alex noticed her shy reaction, but he didn't push. Not yet. Instead, he set Henry back in his chair and rolled up his sleeves. "Want me to help with dinner?" he asked, glancing toward the kitchen area. "You." Tuna raised an eyebrow, laughing. "Last time you tried, you burned the garlic and scared Henry." "Hey, that was one time." Alex placed his hand over his heart dramatically. "I've improved. I'm basically a master chef now." She shook her head, still laughing, but her eyes softened. "Come in then." Inside the small kitchen, the warm scent of frying scallions filled the air. The space was narrow, with chipped tiles and an old wooden table, but to Alex, it felt like the most precious place in the world. Every bowl, every spoon, every hanging towel carried pieces of Tuna's life, of her struggles, her routine, her quiet resilience. He chopped vegetables clumsily while she seasoned the broth, occasionally glancing at him whenever the knife nearly slipped. "You're going to lose a finger," she teased. "If I do," Alex replied, winking, "I'll just ask you to take care of me." She paused for a moment, startled by the warmth in his voice. Then she quickly turned back to her pot, cheeks faintly pink. Dinner came together slowly, filled with laughter over burnt bits and small splashes of broth on Alex's shirt, which now had chili paste, dust, and soup stains, forming a collage of their entire day together. They carried everything outside, where Henry sat waiting with impatient little kicks. The three of them ate under the open sky, crickets starting to sing from the grassy edges of the farm. "Henry, taste this," Alex said, scooping a tiny bit of mashed vegetables and blowing on it before feeding the little boy. Henry immediately smacked his lips, eyes shining. "See? Even Henry agrees I'm a great cook." "You warmed up the vegetables," Tuna corrected him. "I cooked them." "Details." Alex grinned, leaning back on his hands. Tuna laughed again, a soft, sweet sound that made Alex's heart swell. In his mind, the world seemed to quiet until only the three of them existed. After dinner, the breeze grew cooler. The sky shifted into purples and deep blues, stars beginning to peek through. Alex washed the dishes, while Tuna bathed Henry in a large plastic tub outside the house. The baby's giggles echoed through the yard as he splashed water everywhere. Alex dried his hands and walked over, watching the scene unfold in front of him. Tuna, gently pouring warm water over Henry's tiny shoulders, humming a lullaby. The sight struck him with a fierce tenderness. "You're amazing with him," Alex whispered. Tuna didn't look up. She was fixing Henry's shirt, buttoning it carefully so he wouldn't get cold. "He's my son. Of course I am." Alex stepped closer, his voice dropping. "I meant, you're amazing. Period." She froze for a heartbeat, then slowly lifted her eyes. Something unspoken flickered between them. Something warm and vulnerable. Henry yawned loudly, breaking the moment. Tuna picked him up, rocking him gently until his eyelids began to flutter. "Come inside," she murmured. "He's sleepy." Alex followed her in, watching the way she placed Henry into his crib with such care. She pulled a thin blanket over him, smoothing it out, brushing his hair aside. The room was small. 2 beds, a single lamp, and a wardrobe, but it radiated warmth. When she finally stepped out and closed the door behind her, she leaned against the wall, rubbing her temples with tired fingers. Today was a lot. Alex stood across from her, hands in his pockets, heart pounding. He'd been thinking about this all day. No, longer. For weeks, ever since she helped him, ever since she loaned him $5,000 without a second thought, ever since she offered a lifeline when he was drowning. John's words echoed in his mind. "You're a real man, Alex." He swallowed hard. "Tuna," he said softly. But she instantly noticed the change in his tone. She looked up, eyes curious. Alex took a shaky breath. "I talked to John today, and he said something that made me realize I've been scared for no reason." She didn't speak. She just listened. Really listened. The way only she could. "I love you," Alex continued, stepping closer. "And I love Henry. I want to be here. I want to take care of both of you. I want a real family with you." Her breath caught. Alex reached into his pocket. His fingers brushed the small velvet box he'd been carrying all afternoon, ever since leaving the cafe. The weight of it felt enormous now. He slowly knelt down, the floor cool against his knee. "Tuna." Her hands flew to her mouth, eyes widening, shimmering as if they couldn't decide whether to cry or smile. Alex opened the small box. Inside was a simple ring. Nothing extravagant, nothing flashy, but it held every piece of sincerity inside his heart. "I don't have wealth yet. I don't have a big house or fancy things." His voice trembled. "But I have love, and I have the desire to spend my entire life making you feel safe, respected, and cherished." He lifted his eyes, meeting hers through the quiet storm of emotion. "Will you marry me?" The night around them seemed to hold its breath. Even the crickets paused. Tuna's lips trembled. Tears formed and slowly spilled over as she shook her head, not in refusal, but in disbelief, an overwhelming emotion she hadn't prepared for. "Alex, I don't know if I deserve—" "Yes, you do," he cut in quietly. "You deserve everything." She covered her face with both hands and sobbed, not from sadness, but from a happiness too huge to fit in her chest. When she lowered her hands, she nodded through tears. "Yes, Alex, yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger with shaking hands. Then he stood and pulled her into a tight embrace. She clung to him, burying her face into his shoulder, crying softly while he held her as if he'd finally found home.